Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm Bruce Warner. I'm the president of the TriMet Board of Directors, and my district is Washington County, most of Beaverton and Hillsborough, and it's a little bit further south. What I first want to do is welcome all of you here to Ride Connection's new headquarters. We're going to hear a little bit more about that in a moment. And the reason we're here is this is part of our effort to ensure that we stay connected to the communities we serve, and so from time to time, we'll have meetings out in the community where we have an opportunity to meet with you like we did this morning, and thank you, all of you, for coming. It was great to chat with you. We are very happy to be here as we work and engage our communities more and engage as much as possible. What I'd like to do is now ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, tell them where you're from and where you represent, and I'm going to start with Director Esmond on my right and your left.
Good morning. Well, we got Oregon back now. It's not California. So I'm Joe Esmond. My day job is I'm a business agent for the IBEW Local 48, which is the Electrical Workers Union, and I was appointed here about a year and a half ago by the governor for District 2, Southwest and Northwest Portland area.
I'm T. Allen Bethel. Started with, like Joe, my day job is I am the senior pastor of Maranatha Church, also president of Albina Minister Alliance, and over 3 years ago now, I was appointed to the TriMet board by governor, and I am in the district around northeast Portland.
Good morning, Consuelo Saragosa, and I'm from the southeast area district, this area. And my day job is I work with public health, Multnomah County Public Health, and very involved in advocacy in terms of communities, making sure that we address what we call the social determinants of health that include also transportation, health, education, etc. So it's really great to be here and to see you, and this is an incredible facility. Thank you.
Good morning, Travis Stovall. My district covers East County, so the majority of the four cities, actually all of the four cities that exist in East County, and then parts of southeast Portland. And my mother actually wonders if I'm going to get a day job ever. I keep reassuring her that I will one day. I am employable. Actually, I get to run a company called EREP Incorporated, a young startup that we started out in East County looking at bringing together. I always like to describe it this way. It's eHarmony meets LinkedIn. Think about that. No, it's not to find romantic relationships at the office. But we launched about a year and a half ago and have really enjoyed growing a small company here in the east side, and hopefully we'll continue to grow it. And there was one other thing I was going to say, and now I forgot because you guys are laughing at me. Actually, I've been on the board for 2.5 years. I joined the same time our illustrious president, great leader, phenomenal guy over there we call President Bruce Warner.
He wants something.
I do. I do.
My name is Craig Prosser. I represent District 6, which is essentially Clackamas County. Been on the board for almost 3 years now. In my day job is that I don't have one because I'm retired. I'm a former city manager for the city of Tigard, and most of my career was in public finance at Tigard, at Metro, at Portland. So basically couldn't hold a job for very long. So.
Well, thank you to all of you. For everybody here, I wanted to let you kind of know how this morning's events are going to take place. We first are going to begin with some remarks from our partners and state lawmakers. We have 4 state lawmakers here today, I believe, and 3 of them are scheduled to talk. And I see Representative Lou Frederick in the front row here. Lou, are you going to be able to stay around for a while? Or are you? Okay, so hopefully maybe we'll have to provide some time for you right up front, okay? So as soon as they finish, we will open the public forum for people to give testimony. And again, as everybody who's been to TriMet board meetings before understands, that we allocate 45 minutes to this public forum, and then we'll move directly into our board meeting with reports from our board members and general managers. So what I would say is let's get started. You know, what I think I'm going to do is call the meeting of the TriMet Board of Directors for September 24th, 2014 to order, so we get that formal bit of business out of the way. And now Let's talk a little bit about this great facility we're in here, and I want to thank our partners at Ride Connection for hosting us today. And if you've had a chance to wander around this facility, you know it's beautiful, and TriMet is really proud to have helped Ride Connection in terms of putting this together and finding the funding, because Ride Connection truly does make a difference for the community. And I want to first bring up Elaine Wills, who's the executive director of Ride Connection, to come forward, and again, we want to thank you for all your hard work, but obviously want to hear what you're doing and what you think of your new facility here. So good morning.
Thank you, and welcome. Welcome from all of us at Ride Connection and Gleason Commons. You're our first community group to be in this wonderful space, so we're very excited to welcome all of you here. We're thrilled that we were able to host you today. Please allow me to update you a little bit on what we've been up to since the last time I spoke to you during a board meeting. With the support and partnership of many, including TriMet, the Ride Connection was able to build this beautiful space we're in today. Above us, there are 67 units of workforce housing built by our fellow partner, Human Solutions. And in the north part of the lot, construction is well underway for 60 units of senior housing, a project of yet another stellar nonprofit, Reach Community Development. And you'll be hearing from Dan, their executive director, in just a few moments. TriMet was paramount to this project, providing a channel for both FTA funding and Connect Oregon funding, along with the support of many staff hours that helped us oversee this project. We would not be here today in this space. Our path would have been much more difficult and much more lengthy if we had not had your help. So we really, really are very grateful to that support. As you might see while you're here, we take great pride in this new space, where we have room to grow our service and staff and where we can collaborate more easily. There's 8 meeting spaces here, named after streets of previous offices that we've had. This is a serious, and I mean serious, upgrade for us. We've come from a space with just one large meeting room, and like I said at our open house, it's kind of like sharing a house with 12 people and having only one bathroom. So we are really enjoying being able to spread out and enjoy the space. We feel very strongly about sharing ideas and working together, and this has been a value of ours since our very beginning in 1986. Not only does it help us solve the complex problems of meeting transportation needs, but it allows us to make the most out of our resources. Gleason Commons is a place we can call our permanent home, allowing us to focus on our mission. We are just 3 blocks from the Gateway Transit Center, and this is 100% accessible space, coming from spaces where we were located on upper floors or sidewalks weren't fully developed. This is a dream come true to have a space where everyone, regardless of ability level, can come and meet with us here and help us collaborate on transportation options. Ride Connection's mission is to link accessible, responsive transportation with community needs. When officials from the city of Forest Grove and TriMet came to us in need of a solution for transit options in Forest Grove a couple years ago, we were eager to jump to the task. Our smaller buses can go where TriMet buses cannot, and with existing research and by compiling our own information via community forums and surveys, GroveLink was created. I'm going to go back to that link. GroveLink ridership has grown exponentially in its first year of service and has experienced an overwhelming warm reception in the community. GroveLink runs 2 minibuses 5 days a week from 6:30 a.m. to 6:50 p.m., serving residential areas in the north and west parts of the city. GroveLink saw a 400% increase in ridership in its first 2 months, starting with 156 riders in its first week and finishing its first year with an average of over 600 riders per week. And that has held steady and has and growing as school has started now. As of October 1st, we'll be taking over the Tualatin shuttle, which is currently operated by the Tualatin Chamber of Commerce. We're really excited to be able to provide people who work in the Tualatin area a way to access their jobs via transit. The Tualatin shuttle operates during commute times, connecting riders to WES and multiple bus lines. An immediate and one of the most notable changes to this service is the addition of accessible vehicles. We launched the community bus on a rather chilly day in June 2010. It links riders with Banks, North Plains, Forest Grove, and the Hillsborough Transit Center. From the community bus, riders can access Tillamook's Wave Bus, GroveLink, and many TriMet buses as well as Max. So these shuttles that we've started developing, we hope are the wave of the future because it really helps us serve our older adults and people with disabilities too in a more economical, independent way. So it's just benefiting the community as a whole as these are being developed. Ride Connection also provides, as I've just alluded to, an array of services for older adults, people with disabilities, and low-income individuals in the Tri-County area. We offer programs like Fare Assistance, where we administer grants in the form of TriMet Fare to agencies who serve low-income populations. Just a few weeks ago, we were honored by being given a Partner of the Month award from Northwest Family Services. And it read, in recognition, so you can share in this award because the grants come from you that we award to other nonprofits. So it says, in recognition of diligent partnership, we nominated Ride Connection as the Partner of the Month for September 2014. Thanks to their contributions, we have been able to support participants of our programs in need of transportation and have seen significant improvement in attendance, job retention, and overall access to resources. So thank you. We offer transit training and grocery shopping shuttles. We offer information and referral and door-to-door service, all aimed at our one goal, to create independence and community connections through the gift of mobility. Thank you very much.
Say right there from any comments or questions from the board? Just wanna see.
Yeah. I'm glad to see my people working on this building. I'll recuse myself for this.
Oh, okay. Elaine, I just want to thank you for what you folks do. I think one of the challenges TriMet has and always will have is kind of that last mile. Mm-hmm. And for those of you involved in transit, understand what I'm talking about. We go to a transit station or the end of the line. There's often a need for people to get from the end of the line to where they live or to the services they need. And I think your organization is an example of a partnership that is valued for that reason. And we have other partners like Intel and others that are providing those services. But it's clear that we need to look at exploring more and more of these kind of partnerships to address some of those more localized concerns. And congratulations on what's happening in Forest Grove. It's just a wonderful example, and it feels to me like something the community is going to enjoy a lot as they even learn more about what it can do for the community. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's just been a wonderful experience for us who, our roots have always been door-to-door, door-through-door service, but to be able to provide a more independent way of travel for our original customers, and then to expand that customer base to the community at large, to be able to get to work, to connect to transit. And the way I like to describe it is that you are a regional service that is absolutely essential to our community. And then we can provide the community transportation around the neighborhoods with smaller vehicles, accessible vehicles, and that together we provide a complete picture. And it's just a wonderful opportunity to be able to work with you. So thank you very much.
And again, congratulations on your new facility here. Now what I'd like to do is ask Dan Valliere, the Chief Executive Officer of REACH, to come talk to us a little bit about the importance of the linkage between affordable housing and transit. And as you heard about this facility here, and is a great example of how to connect them. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. And yeah, it's just great to be here with Elaine, and a privilege. They are a great partner of REACH. We benefit from the transit passes and other support services. So it's just great to follow Elaine, because they have been a huge resource for REACH residents for many years. And so to work together here has been an amazing experience. Traditionally, REACH has sort of built a building and managed it itself, and this is totally different. Human Solutions actually owns the housing above Ride Connection, and then REACH is building the building just out the door here that's just across the courtyard, which will be apartments for seniors. So it's an amazing partnership, tripartite sort of arrangement, and we're so excited by it. So just want to give a quick background on REACH for those who don't know it. REACH started in 1982. During the 90s, it was really focused and growing in inner southeast Portland. And then, well, forgive me there. And then in the period of the 2000s, getting my slides going here. During the 2000s, REACH was had taken on a metropolitan-wide agenda and started looking, thank you. Go back a slide, actually. I was trying to get back, but. Yeah. So REACH had taken on a metropolitan-wide framework and is now working in Clark County, Washington, and Hillsborough, in some of the inner core neighborhoods of Portland, and also in Washougal. So transit orientation, it's been a very important concept for REACH for the past 10 years at least. It's a good framework for our metropolitan-wide growth, because we don't just want to build affordable housing anywhere. We want it to be accessible to transportation, because when you think about housing affordability, we look at it not only as rent, but its transportation cost and its utility costs. And transportation costs is sometimes is the driver, even more than the rent, of how expensive it is in terms of your housing. So let me go forward. And land acquisition is a huge part of that. It's hard to get land that's accessible to good transit locations, but we've been fortunate to find creative ways to do it, but it's never automatic. The Housing and Transportation Affordability Index is an interesting concept. Just thought I'd put this up here. Traditionally, you hear about affordable housing and what is affordable, and the standard is 30% of your income spent on housing or in rent or mortgage, okay? But a group in Chicago put together this index, and they layer in transit costs as well, and their standard, based on their research, is 45% of your income, no more than that, should go to housing plus transit, okay? So they mapped it, and you can look at the Portland map here. So here's the map. The blue areas are areas where the average income, average housing cost is over 30% of the average income, right? So this is looking at housing affordability and where the people with greater rent burden would be. This is the map when you layer in transit, and look at that 45% standard. So it's almost everywhere, except some of the inner neighborhoods or neighborhoods right by transit stops. So it kind of maps against the TriMet map in a way. So that's just an interesting new framework that we've been looking at. Couple examples. West Shore, this is downtown 3rd and Pine. This is a building that Reach took on many years ago. It was one of the first things we did that was looking at transit because it's right downtown. A lot of downtown workers, but people also can then travel out to other jobs. Most folks who live here work. Patton Park, this was the premier project we did with TriMet. So TriMet actually provided the land at a great discount that allowed this to happen. Without TriMet, would not have happened. And I'll mention that there was recently a new statement issued by the Federal Transit Administration this year about joint development, trying to encourage the idea of, transit agencies doing joint development around new transit projects and using land, to do that. Interestingly, having just read through it, it doesn't talk about equity. It's not even really that friendly a statement in terms of allowing and encouraging write down of land costs and things like that you need to do to make affordable housing happen. So I just want to highlight that TriMet, and this project was actually highlighted in the press release about this new policy as an example, a great example of what it's trying to encourage. I just found it interesting that actually the policies at the federal level still aren't entirely friendly to this kind of work. So TriMet was a pioneer and still is, and doesn't always have federal policy at its back. So I just want to commend TriMet for being committed to equity and for doing things beyond the norm to make things happen and make affordable housing happen. It's very unique. Station Place, this is downtown in the Pearl District, an area that was, a lot of public resources were invested to clean up the area, so affordable housing was done to make sure, again, there was fairness and equity and balance. Gray's Landing, this is at the end of a streetcar line in South Waterfront, which has just been incredible. Very small, both in the previous building, Station Place, and here at Gray's Landing, very small percentage of people have cars. It's amazing. I mean, we, it's well under half. I mean, it's in Station Place, it's under 20%. So people are able to live there and not have a car. Gleason Commons, that's the building that will be out back here that's under construction. Senior apartments, 60 apartments. And then this is Orchards at Orenco, and this is in Hillsborough at Orenco Station. This one will be open by next summer, and then there are 2 more phases coming. And I'll just remark on this one, we have there's a requirement in Hillsborough of 1.5 parking spaces per apartment. We were able to get a waiver, and they said, okay, fine, 1-to-1's okay for this one, so we're doing 1 parking space per apartment, which is way more than we normally do in Portland. And in a way, it's going to be a test case. We're going to try to show that you don't even need 1-to-1, but we'll see. This is the experiment. So we're hoping that this will show it's possible for people to live in Hillsborough affordably and maybe don't necessarily have to have a car depending on where they work. So stay tuned on that. Any questions?
Questions, comments from the board?
I've got a quick question in regards to, I mean, you going back to in what you referenced in regards to housing and transit going together is one of the things that I'm, very, very interested in. And we did the Prosperity Planner a few years ago through Work Systems Inc. and the City of Portland. And the work we did there really did identify transit being a big barrier from poverty to prosperity. And so the 45% to housing and transit, and you showed that map. What is that measure? Because it looks like we have some parts of the city, when you layer that on, that are below that 45%, but massive majority of it is above that 45%. And it appeared that the part that was under 45% was primarily centered kind of around the max.
Right. I think so. I think it's reflecting, and there's a pretty detailed methodology on this, and I'm not the expert on it, but I've been learning about it. And yeah, I mean, being close to the max line was going to weigh heavily on reducing that cost. There'll be more people that don't have a car. So they're making assumptions in their analysis of car ownership and things like that, and saying, so there's less money being spent on automobile transportation in some of these areas. So people are spending less representative of their income on housing and transit by not having to own a car. So that's an example of what they're layering in. I mean, this isn't a perfect model, and I don't think if you take it down to the census tract, it necessarily is the perfect for micro planning, but it just makes the general statement about aligning transportation with housing. There's huge benefits to the economy because you're giving people an option to, stay under that 45% measure. And, we see it every day. We have a lot of people who do have cars at Reach, and it's really hard when even being in an affordable apartment, plus though having a car expense, they're strapped, and we see it. We have people coming to us for help saying, I'm having a hard time making ends meet. And sometimes the transit's part of the issue. They have to travel far to get to their job. And yeah, so I mean, we're trying to figure out how we can do our housing so that people have that choice to maybe not have a car. It saves them a lot of money.
And just one quick follow-up. You mentioned the land close to transit is generally not attainable or available to groups like yours in regards because of cost.
Right.
And it looks like on a couple of these projects, TriMet and Transit was able to help subsidize to be able to get that in there. But effectively, there's this kind of dichotomy between the ability and opportunity to place areas that are for moderate to low income near transit. And so we've got this kind of challenge that we see in that, yeah, we can reduce the cost of housing and transit if we locate near it, but yet locating near it comes at a premium.
Right. So it takes advocacy, and it's going to take, public sector can play a role by encouraging, incentivizing, or even requiring, a certain level of affordable development in an area. So we need public sector advocacy to make things happen. You also have private sort of community-minded companies that are doing things. At Orenco, the land we're on there was purchased from Walsh Construction an affiliate of Walsh Construction at a big discount because they said, they do a lot of affordable housing around the city, and they said, this is really important, and they were excited by the idea. It was during the downturn when they had some surplus land, and they said, we want to do something about this. So sometimes you just have to look for those advocates or civic-minded private companies or individuals who are willing to make this a community priority. It's about fairness. But if you're not advocating and speaking up about it, you're right, it's not going to happen because the private market it's not going to naturally happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Dan, I know you're not busy, but you might think about advocating for locating businesses, say this side of town, and having land set aside so businesses could come to help those medium and low income people go to work. And that wouldn't necessarily mean high tech or software stuff, but where a person with a high school degree and a little bit more can go to work and raise a family and hopefully buy a home. So it looks to me in Portland that people are getting kind of priced out of here. So social comment, but still it's you can't keep pushing things, locating businesses so far away. So anyway.
That's true.
Editorial.
Good comment. Other comments? I guess I'd just say thank you again for what you do. I happen to live in the Orenco Station area and am watching with interest the construction going on. I was pleased to see your Alma Gardens project completed, and I assume you got a large waiting list for seniors to get into that facility.
Yeah, Alma Garden is great. It's actually Northwest Housing Alternatives is a peer of Reach, and they put that together. Great organization. Yeah, I should give them
for
a plug.
those of you who haven't been out to the Orenco Station area, I'd encourage you to take a look. I think there's probably about 1,000 new units of housing that will be completed in probably the next year that are within 1 to 1.5 blocks of the transit station. So it will be a real experiment in terms of how the densities, both market rate and affordable housing, work together there to make what I think will be a really complete community. So again, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing that facility completed in the next year, as you point out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job. All right, so now on our agenda we have 4 state representatives, as I indicated to you earlier, who are very supportive of our efforts in a growing transit in the community here. And I'd like to welcome again State Representatives Jessica Vega Pedersen, Alyssa Kenny Geyer, Jeff Reardon, and then again Lou Frederick. And I want to invite you all up to speak to the board today. And Lou, I don't know whether your schedule, you want to just go in the order we had them? All right. So the first person I had on my list was Jessica Vega Peterson. It's Pedersen, right? I'm sorry. It's Peter, okay.
You want, Jessica, or JVP, as we affectionately call her.
All right, good.
Because long name, as mine is too. Suggested I go first because you're actually in my district. So I wanted to welcome you all to my district and thank Consuelo Zaragoza in particular, who's my representative on your board, for having your meeting here. And also want to thank Ride Connection for both hosting us, but also for placing your headquarters right here. I've watched it as it opened during my the last few years that I've just joined the legislature, and really honored that their work is placed in this building. And I know the quality of their staff because I see Coralie Potter, who I saw in this room, who works for Ride Connections, and not only does that during the day, but is a very active Lentz Neighborhood Association person. So I know that she's working on weekends and nights, and there are so many people in this room who are in my district. Lou Scholl, who is here and does a lot of transportation efforts around 82nd Avenue for the Montevilla Neighborhood Association. So placing your meeting here and having Ride Connection be so at the heart of the community, where people are working for their day jobs and their community efforts to really to bring all of these different connections together. So I want to thank you on that behalf for having us here. And I know that both in federal transportation dollars and housing dollars have really been declining over the last few years, and that's put a lot of pressure on the state to try to make that up in some way. So there's a big transportation package that is going to be proposed in the 2015 session, and I know that we're all going to work hard on that. One of the things that I am going to take a particular interest in is orphan highways, because we have a big, we have coming through this district, we have Foster and Powell and 82nd Avenue division. We have some high crash corridors, and the fact that some of them are managed by PBOT, some are by ODOT, has been a challenge for neighborhoods in my district. And some of that transportation dollars will probably go to pilot projects for orphan highways or looking at the interjurisdictional transfer. So that's something that my district is really looking at very carefully. Also on 82nd Avenue, I just want to point out that PCC Southeast, which became a campus, not just a center, just I think on Monday, is going to be doubling in size from 10,000 to 19,000 students. And I know it's a challenge for you providing bus service there because our infrastructure is so poor, which is why we need to really figure out the orphan highway kind of situation. So sidewalks, road maintenance, safe routes to school, to work, to healthcare, to social services, to to housing is really, really, really a huge need in this community. I also have the pleasure of being on the Human Services and Housing Committee, which is a huge social determinant of health. So we're trying to be very creative. I'm looking forward to Representative Reardon here, who's worked hard on a housing task force, to perhaps say a few words about that. And I know that task force is presenting some ideas. There are other ideas as well, inclusionary zoning and others that, we've been struggling with for a few years. And I'm eager to see us continue to pursue all the possible tools to really help diversify our housing and transit options. So number of bills that we're working on, but really want you to have a face to a name and be able to come to us with your ideas, and appreciate all the work you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak today. I did want to give Alyssa the privilege of going first because it's her district. But we're really glad to have you hold your board meeting here in Mid-County. This is an area where you know that transit is very important. And it's actually very critical for people who live here to be able to get safely to go shopping, to their jobs, access to services. And we see that a lot. We talked a little bit about, or Alyssa talked a little bit about the need for high crash, or where we have high crash corridors, and the need for services and more infrastructure around that. We've done work on the state to try to get safer crossings for pedestrians, access to sidewalks, so that we can really impact that last mile home that you were talking about, Bruce, when people are using transit. But we want to make sure that this is a community where people can work and flourish. and represents the vibrant and diverse community that we have. And so I'm very happy that you are going to be looking at service enhancement plan for East County. I think that is a great step forward, and some good ideas are going to come out of that. I would encourage you to look at north-south transit access out here in Mid-County and East County, because that's going to be very important for the people who live, work, and play out here in the community. And just as important, I think, as getting east and west. I also wanted to just congratulate everybody on the partnership of having this building created between REACH, Ride Connect, and Human Solutions. This is a really great thing to have out here in East Portland, a wonderful partnership, and glad to see that it's growing and these things are thriving. And I think that Alyssa said a lot of the things about the importance of development here. I think one of the things that we have been working on as East Portland representatives is helping develop jobs in the community, helping to make it a better place to live, and really creating a sense of a sense of place. Because and that takes a partnership between TriMet, the city, the state, the county, Metro, all working together to create that sense of place. And so I'm very optimistic about things like the Powell Division plans that are going forward, and how we can drive infrastructure there, drive better access for people, and to help create that sense of place. So thank you so much.
Any comments, questions?
Oh, I have a little temptation to, because I've sat there many times in front of them. Thank you for showing up in your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Representative Reardon and Representative Frederick, if you'd like to come up, please. We'd love to hear from you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's just not good to follow those two ladies because they're so awesome, and they actually said a lot of what I had hoped to say. But I wanted to, since you're out here in our area, just kind of try to put a little bit of a face on some of the people that live here. I worked until 2 years ago. I worked at David Douglas High School, and I want to talk about just the makeup of that district a little bit, because I think it reflects the overall population of this area. And that is that we have about 80% of that district is on free and reduced lunch, and about 25% are speak language other than English in their homes. So, and we're right down the street from ERCO, just a couple blocks up here. I've talked to a friend of mine who's still teaching at the high school. They had people literally coming out of camps that don't know how to tell time, don't know how to be anywhere on time, don't know the language, and it's going to be 2 or 3 months before they can even think about learning regular curriculum. So this is a little bit about the type of people that you're trying to serve, and I wanted to just kind of make you aware of some of the challenges that people face here. Yet having said that, it's a vibrant community. It's people that care about each other, and really a lot of support. And part of that can be characterized by some of the people I think that are sitting back in the audience. When you get to doing your further study of transportation needs, I hope you're well aware of the work being done by the East Portland Action Plan. Those are the folks that really know this area, and they have a transportation subcommittee, so if I have questions, I know who I go talk to and who I want to listen to. So I encourage you just to be aware of their work, and as Jessica said, I want to echo a couple of things she said. That north-south is kind of a neglected thing, or not intentionally, I'm sure, but it's really important. We need a greater frequency on that. I've also heard from people, my district's a little bit further south, have a lot of people that are SEIU workers that are cleaning the buildings downtown. They're riding buses downtown to go to work, but they're having to sleep on park benches and whatever at the end of their shift because the buses aren't running at the time of the morning when they get off work. So, just little issues like that that I would never have thought of. Orphan highways, we're all interested in those, so I want to echo that comment and reinforce that. Outer Southeast Powell in particular is a concern. We had a little bit minor safety improvements, but that needs a lot of work. We're very concerned about Foster and the amount of traffic that's going through there. If they ever figure out what they're doing in Damascus, and we're going to see an increase in traffic through there, it's going to be another higher crash corridor. So those are just some of the issues that we're facing out here. In terms of the housing, I have been chairing a housing work group. Basically, I don't have all the recommendations in front of me. There'll probably be 6 to 8 different relatively small legislative fixes. One of the things that I had to wait until I got here to learn was the amount of work that's being done, a cooperation between TriMet and REACH, and you guys are getting things done. You're solving the problem. So I wish I'd known a little bit more about that sooner, to be honest. So, but basically it comes down to land, money, and processes. And that's what my group's been working on. So we'll make some progress on it. But as you know, there's always a lot of work to be done. We have so many people that cannot afford housing, not just here, but across the state. I think I'll stop there and turn it over to my esteemed colleague, Mike.
Hello there. Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak briefly. Well, I come at it from a different direction in some ways, and that's appropriate from where my district is. I'm Lloyd Center, Concordia, Emmanuel Hospital, PCC Cascade, the northeast area, a very concentrated community that has, I have the bottom southwest corner of my district happens to be the transit center at the MODA Center. So that's where I'm coming at it. And I have to say that because it's important to understand that there's a significant connection between where we are now, here physically, and my district. I have a lot of folks who used to live in my district who now live out here. And they have the connection that they need to have with their community is scattered because of gentrification, because of predatory lending, because of a number of other things. So these folks are now out here trying to stay connected with their community. They're trying to make sure that they get to Maranatha on Sundays, but they have to get there via TriMet. They have to get there in other ways. So it's important to recognize, I think, the kind of interconnection that takes place within the TriMet system, and what that takes place within the city of Portland. So I would encourage you to keep that in mind, that it is north-south, it is east-west, but it is also really a community connection that takes place there that's important. So I appreciate the work, and the group here is all of the things that you're seeing, the connections with REACH and all of that helps a great deal, but we also need to be cognizant of the kind of historic connections that have taken place and some things that have been disrupted and how we address those things. So I encourage you to look at that. I have a lot of folks who use TriMet and use mass transit within my district, but they also need to know that they can get connected in the rest of the city and the region. So thank you for your work. Thanks for the work of REACH and all the other folks. And my colleagues it is quite a joy actually to work with these three folks. And so it's important to stay involved with them as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Oh, of course you began.
My wife and I just returned from a trip to Hong Kong and Bali. And I mention it because it's such a interesting comparison, shall we say, of transportation choices. And in Hong Kong, it's changed since I was there 40-some years ago. You have fantastic, light rail, tunnels, bus system that runs so frequently, and their ridership, you'll just love 90%. So density, having 7.4 million people in an area that's probably smaller than Multnomah County, kind of helps with that. But then we went to Bali, and they haven't yet heard the concept of transportation planning, and so they have literally roads that are about 12 feet wide, and people pass, every kid at 10, I think, gets a scooter. and they pass on the left, they pass on the right. It's just utter chaos. Very entertaining and sometimes horrifying. I did not drive. And I just bring that up because it's just, I think it illustrates that we have choices, you have choices about how we address transportation. It makes a difference in the economic development, in the everyday issues of people's lives. And we have choices, and I know that you recognize that, and I just want to say that I appreciate that you people step up to help make those choices and realize how it, really connects our community and it helps our economy grow. And it's so important. So thank you for what you're doing. And again, thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Any comments? Yes.
I got a comment. I didn't know what I was getting involved in when I was appointed to TriMet. But I will say this board and the agency bend over backwards to do everything they can to connect people in this area. Low, high, middle income. How can we make it better? How can we make it better? How can we make it safer? So that is very much on the forefront, very much on the forefront of the board and the agency. So just want to let you know that.
I think we do.
Good.
Well, what I want to do is say thank you to all of you for coming here today. I guess I want to also, on behalf of the board and frankly of all the citizens, thank you for your public service. I don't think people really understand the time commitment, the energy commitment that you folks put out for all of us down in Salem. It's greatly appreciated, and I do appreciate, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come talk with us, and hopefully you know a little bit more about some of the things that we're doing out here, and we look forward to continuing to work with you as legislation's developed and things that impact transportation, land use, housing. We want to be there and want to be a partner, and I think you're seeing that pretty loudly and clearly in terms of the actions and the work that we do. So again, thank you for coming. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We're going to get right into our public session here where we allow people to present their issues to the board. So again, thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's now open the public forum for everybody. The public forum is budgeted for a maximum of 45 minutes, and we usually, depending on the number of comments, limit the time from 2 to 3 minutes. And we have 6 people signed up, so I think we'll have the 3-minute time limit. And if we get done prior to the end, or early before the 45 minutes, we'll jump right into the regular business meeting of the board. So with that, I'm going to call you up 2 at a time, okay? For the public session. As I said, we have 6. And Leon, Cheveria, come on up, please. And David Hampston. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. Leon, you first.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to everyone else here. I can't ignore them. Okay. I had to write this down, or it's too easy for me to go off course here. But anyways, I'm a member of the CAT committee, which stands for Committee on Accessible Transportation. And I originally made this comment at a CAT meeting earlier this year when I was still when I was still living in Southeast Portland. Now I live on Northeast Hoyt. But anyways, so I spoke to the City Council September 10th. But it's merely a way to cross a wide or busy street like I used to do on Southeast 34th Street and Powell. People must learn to stop on the midline island, you know, those concrete things where they stop. Okay, they must learn to stop there because, and perhaps ODOT or the City of Portland can paint or construct an area at the mid-yellow line. Because when people stop, vehicles will more easily see them, enabling them to stop 30 feet away, which will make the pedestrians more relaxed and satisfied. They have the ability to cross the street. Of course, it's no problem when there's no traffic. Unfortunately, too many step into speeding traffic, especially when they see a bus or other vehicle at the stop, because there's a stop right across the street on 34th. So safety is an issue, and I believe this practice will save thousands of lives. Perhaps a sign shaped like a stop sign, but without, you see the palm to help, especially children or people that don't speak our languages, people from Vietnam or a Slavic country. So it'll say alto, and then it'll say stop. Anyways, so I say the best way to cross the street is to learn to stop. Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Hamston. I'm the Transportation Chair for the Hazelwood Neighborhood Association, and I want to welcome all of you to this meeting here in the Hazelwood Neighborhood Association. Hazelwood is the area includes Gateway, Mall 205 at Adventist Health, and Glendevere Golf Course, and the David Douglas High School. So it's a huge area, about 4 square miles, about 23,000 people. We're the third largest neighborhood in Portland. We really appreciate TriMet, as several people said earlier, and this board as well. The connections that you've provided within our neighborhood are really quite excellent. I know that your staff has been talking with Tyler Bump with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability with the City of Portland. He's been doing a study of where people who live in East Portland, where do they work, and then also where people who work in East Portland, where do they live. And what's interesting is that very few people in East Portland actually work downtown. They tend to work actually in the Columbia Corridor, or in Clackamas Town Center area, or even in outer Washington County. Generally, this is a working class area where people have industrial jobs oftentimes. So I want to encourage your agency to strengthen your partnership with Clark County Transit to make easier connections for people in East Portland to not only get to the Columbia Corridor, but for jobs in eastern Clark County. And we have a lot of people who work here who are coming from eastern Clark County. So that's why I'm trying to encourage you to strengthen your connections between the two agencies. But I also want to encourage you to work on the transit connections related to buses 71 and 72, 71 going on, I believe, 122nd, 72 on 82nd. There's a lot of people, again, from East Portland trying to get to jobs in the Columbia Corridor. And so I would strongly encourage you to make that final connection, whether it's either extending the current bus service or creating a shuttle service, as you were talking about over in Forest Grove, doing something fairly similar within the corridor, the Columbia Corridor area, and also in Clackamas Town Center area, to help people get from, for instance, the Clackamas Town Center Transit Center to their final jobs, making the connections easier. So thank you very much, and I really do appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you both. Appreciate it. By the way, I think Powell's one of those orphan highways that our representatives were talking about, and so that's one of the conflicts that always occurs between ODOT and the city in terms of how to deal with pedestrians. So hopefully you'll have some luck. We'll make sure that we have that on our list if that comes up. Thank you. The next two are Nicole Phillips and Even Moore with Bus Riders United. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, is this a good place to be when I'm talking? I don't want to.
You bet.
Okay.
You bet. Yeah.
So, morning.
Good morning.
As you know, my name is Avon Moore, and I'm the chair of Bus Rider Unite's Research and Advisory Committee. And I understand that TriMet has been in contact with the FTA and is waiting for confirmation that you have sufficient data to move forward on extending transfer times. Since it was BRU's parent group, Opal, and our ally, the Center for Intercultural Organizing, that filed the complaint, I'm here to let you know that we are writing a letter to the FTA in support of voting to extend the transfer based on existing data. There's one thing I should make clear. BRU and Opal still have a number of concerns about the data that TriMet currently collects about ridership, and we look forward to working with TriMet to improve data collection moving forward. In particular, we have concerns about the lack of data available for ridership on standard or non-frequent lines, and TriMet's poor understanding of travel patterns in the region. But where extending the transfer time is concerned, we believe that existing data is sufficient to demonstrate beyond doubt that extended transfer times would most benefit low-income riders and people of color and would not create new burdens for riders or the agency. Existing data is enough for us to know that the extended transfer time would exclusively benefit those who use or would use cash and single tickets to pay for their rides. We know from existing TriMet data that those riders are disproportionately low-income and disproportionately people of color. 67% of cash and ticket trips are taken by people in low-income households or below the threshold for low income. People of color are slightly more likely to use cash and ticket fares. 30% of cash and ticket trips are taken by people of color versus 26% of trips with a pass. And with TriMet's fare survey data, you can look at pretty much any marginalized or vulnerable demographic and see that they're more likely to buy single fares, and therefore, as a group, likely to benefit from extending transfer times. While such data remains incomplete, it's clearly sufficient to show the benefits of longer transfer times. On the other side of the coin, in the 3 years that we've been working on this issue with TriMet staff and board members, neither BRU nor TriMet has discovered consequences that would disproportionately harm people in protected classes. We've shown that the cost of implementing the program is very small compared to the overall budget, meaning that TriMet will not need to make cuts in other places to maintain its level of service. And it's also important to note that a vote on extending transfers is urgently needed. Riders were already in straits when we began this campaign in 2010, and the only change that we see 4 years later is even higher fares and shorter transfer times, especially on weekends when service levels are low and longer transfers are necessary. This is an unsustainable position to be in, and we therefore urge a vote on the 2.5-hour transfer as soon as the FTA confirms you're able to do so. Thanks.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, out of curiosity, I Googled the transfer times around the country, what different regions have for their times. They're ranging from 3 hours to as low as 45 minutes, with the average being about 2 hours. So yeah, why the fuss, right? I thought about my experience with the 2-hour transfers, why the changes here have been such an issue. When I lived in Virginia, back in Fairfax, when budgets got tight, the first thing they did when they were looking at service cuts was to reduce transfer times. But that was to maintain service. Drivers would often use their own discretion to provide transfer times for cash riders, and even issued paper transfers to smart card users if there had been delays on the subway or they had to suddenly take a shuttle because something had happened. I spoke with one of my folks from BRU, and when he was in Seattle, he actually ended up with an end-of-the-day transfer. And the driver explained that there was less service after 7 p.m., so it would take longer for him to get where he needed to go. TriMet operators, and I used to live out here in outer Southeast, often provided longer times for weekend service because there were just fewer buses running. And for someone like me, it was tough. I had 2 kids, and we were running back and forth to the grocery store and things, and there's not really a lot of north-south service. So I've been trying to figure out what TriMet's intent was ultimately in reducing the transfer times. Standardizing them, which I've heard that word a lot, could have meant setting them all at 3 hours or lowering them to 2.5. It didn't have to necessarily be 2. The system isn't in dire economic straits. You're not on the verge of shutdown. And again, a natural result of lowering and reducing those transfer times is that there have been higher fares for cash riders and people who buy one-way tickets, and the added consequence of restricting low-income people to bus service just in their local neighborhoods. And in some instances, in a lot of instances, just pulling them off of public transit altogether. Before the FTA's decision, TriMet, we didn't really discuss transfer times. A lot of people came through saying, hey, this is a real fair increase for us. We really need help with it. And there even wasn't the agreement with Opal and BRU to try to hit a compromise. And I'm running out of time, so let me do this really quickly, sorry. In highlighting the realities of those of us whose lives hinge upon TriMet, I always encourage the board to consider the human element, and that's your passengers, all of us. It's the men and women and children who ride TriMet all the time, on both sides of the river. Each day that you delay is another day that someone has to risk going to work with only enough money for a one-way fare, or wonder if they can make it to the doctor's office or to the pharmacy for a prescription, or a family has to decide if they can take their kids out on an outing. At some point, we all choose to just make a decision, to just do it. This is your opportunity to just do it. Reverse the fare increase so that we can all continue to take care of ourselves and our families.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank
And I'm pleased to hear that you're going to write the FTA. That will hopefully be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, the last two folks we have signed up are Chris Walker and Lynn Ketch from the Rockwood Neighborhood Association. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Chris. I think you're up first.
Okay. I'm just thinking about as far as riding around on the lift, especially, takes about, for me, an average commute from Forest Grove, if I'm staying on the west side, from Forest Grove to Beaverton can take sometimes 2.5 hours with traffic and stuff, and if in Portland, even longer. So I'm just wondering if, I know it's traffic and a lot of, with everybody in the room, state and stuff, we need to work on easier ways for people to get back and forth, because I'm not just for me, but for everyone who uses, because there's a lot of people on dialysis or breathing mechanisms and stuff that oxygen will run out if they're not home in a certain time to refill their oxygen. And I'm just thinking that it's important that that happens so that people are able to get around. And also, as you remember, you guys cut a lot of weekend service out for Lyft and with the boundaries changes, and that has been a hardship on people getting around, and especially with the holidays coming, getting home and back or over to a grandma or grandpa's or a friend's house for holidays would be hard on people. So I'm just thinking that maybe we should revisit things, boundaries that way, that it's easier for people just getting around. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Lynn Ketch, and I am coming from the Rockwood community. I have been a TriMet user since 35 years ago when I started out at college at Pacific, Forest Grove. I've had nothing but positive experiences, but I'm also middle class, white, and I only use it when it's convenient. So my children have used it to get into Portland to go to events, but also to work. And I've had foster children who have used it to get to Mount Hood Community College. All of us have had fairly good experiences. I've always felt safe. I watch the news. I know what does happen, so I feel fortunate. But I've had a turn of events since the recession and have found myself a partner in the Rockwood community, which by spending time there working and advocating and meeting the community, so I held 12 conversations last winter with 125 community members. It wasn't for transportation, it was to listen and learn about life in Rockwood. And so I'm coming really to introduce myself. My intent will be that I'll be back because eventually the houses that are building down into Pleasant Valley will require bus service in the Foster Road area, but I'm really here because members of the community of Rockwood that I have met do not have the time or the ability right now to come here, even though this is a great facility, and share their stories. So the one that's most informative to me was an intern that we took in at the Rockwood CDC, and she's a mom with 4 children under the age of 7, and she was 13 blocks from our place to do her internship, and she lives at 179th in Burnside. Her childcare was at 174th in Division, and that's when I learned that my problems with the 181st Street bus were minimal compared to what it was for her. She could not get to daycare without going on the Max into the Gresham Transit, busing out on the Division Street, walking to the daycare, and reversing the whole thing because the 181st Street bus didn't coordinate with Division Street bus and ran so infrequently. And that I know that you have heard the stories of the North-South, and now that I'm hearing others, you know more about it than I do. But I wanted to the survey that came to my home recently highlighted to me how inaccessible the voice of those individuals out in the far East County are, and that the need is for somebody to speak for them. And I would really invite you, if it's possible, to come to the Rockwood community, possibly use the new Justice Center to meet, and allow those who live around that area and can walk to the Justice Center be able to come and tell you their stories. So thank you. Thanks for the service that I've had all these years. Thank you for listening, and I encourage you in your endeavor to provide North-South.
Thank you.
Lynn, I'm, of course, Travis Stovall, and I represent our district. And one of the things that recently we did was to have the East Side Enhancement Plan meeting out at the Multnomah County building right there next to the Max track. And I attended as a board representative, and it was a great exchange of thoughts and ideas. And we had roughly about 8 community members who attended. And so if there's something that we can do to better connect with Rockwood CDC and get the word out there in Rockwood, that it'd be very helpful to get that information. You can work through me and also TriMet staff. But we're very, very focused on ensuring that we reach out to the community. I'm sure as we move forward, we'll also do some additional opportunities, but you're right. There have been many things that have pointed towards the need for additional north-south here in the East Metro and in the outer east side of things, but certainly we want to make sure that everybody has a voice. And frankly, I was a little disappointed at the turnout at that event as I was there, in hoping there would be more, because it's a tremendous opportunity for our folks in our district to have some great input on some of the thoughts and concerns. I can reassure you that the North-South conversation was very fervent at that meeting, and will continue. So thank you for coming out. Greatly appreciated. And what we're doing and what you're doing at the Rockwood CDC is going to have a great impact now and well into the future. So I want to extend my thanks to yourself and Brad and everybody else that's connected with the CDC.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do have some thoughts, so I can share from our experiences.
Excellent. And I'd be happy to come to any of the meetings at the CDC and the Rockwood Business Coalition, which I think I'm coming to in the near future.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That concludes our public forum this morning. And is there any other questions, comment? I think we need a 5-minute break before we get into the business. So why don't we take 5 minutes and come back, and we'll start right up with the board reports.